If you're like me, you probably started shooting pictures back in the film era. And if so, you probably have boxes and boxes of color slides like this. Just boxes of them. Or maybe you took more negatives and you have some sort of file system where you have just hundreds and hundreds of rolls of film, all carefully stored away. If you'd like to digitize some of the best shots from your film archive, stay tuned. Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is Earl. Today I'm going to talk about the apparatus that I use to duplicate or copy slides and negatives to my digital camera so that I can upload them in my computer and print them out or make modifications to the pictures. And I want to show you the equipment that I use. My camera is a full frame sensor camera. It's a Canon 5D, and the lens is a macro lens which allows focusing to 1:1. That is, the size of the image on the sensor will be the actual life size of the image of the subject. And if you use a crop sensor camera to do this copying, you can actually then have a higher magnification. You can actually get more than 1:1, so you can crop in on your negatives and slides slightly if you want. The other piece that I have is this Nikon Adapter. This is designed to accept a color slide or negatives, and it's called an ES1. It cost about $80, and Nikon also makes one called the ES2, which is specifically designed for copying negatives, and with it there's a holder for the film strip that holds the negatives in place and allows up to 6 negatives, a strip of 6 negatives to be included in that film holder, and then you can just move the film holder along, take one picture, slide it to the next negative, take a next picture, and so on. I don't have that adapter. It's called the FH4, and that alone costs about $30. I'm thinking of getting it to use with this, because as you can see, there's these spring clips, little steel spring clips on this adapter, and I have used it to do copying of negatives, but I'm always fearful that I might scratch the negatives as I'm inserting them into this adapter. So I haven't yet purchased this FH4 film holder, but I think I might. The adapter that's designed specifically for doing negatives is called the ES2, and it runs about $150. As I mentioned, this one's $80, and just the film strip holder alone is $30. You also need some sort of light source, and what I use is an old slide viewing tablet, and this gives me a nice clean white light. So I'll show you how all this fits together and how it works, and we'll go from there. So to connect the adapter to my macro lens, I had to buy a series of extension tubes in order to bridge the gap between my lens and this adapter. I fairly carefully measured about how close this lens will focus when it goes to 1:1, and I bought a series of these extension tubes of different sizes. The number 1 size is about 1/4 of an inch, the 2 is about 1/2 inch, and the 3 is a little bit more than an inch. And so by attaching all these together, I then can position the adapter at about the right distance from my sensor to get a good picture. This adapter has a little bit of telescoping effect feature built in, so that if you want to adjust your framing of the slide a little bit, you can do that. So also I needed to have an adapter ring, a step ring, to convert the 58mm filter size of my lens to the 52 millimeter size of these adapters. This is 52 millimeters across here, so I needed to have this step ring to make it all go together. So I attach the extension tubes to my lens, like so, and then attach this adapter to the extension tubes. Just like that. Now the beauty of this is the fact that there's no movement between the camera and the transparency or negative that you're trying to take a picture of. Therefore, shutter speed does not enter into the equation at all. You can set your lowest ISO to get the best quality. You can set the aperture where the lens is at its most sharp. A lot of times it's somewhere mid-range, f5.6 or f8. And then if the shutter speed ends up being 2 seconds, doesn't matter, because the slide or negative is being held firmly in position and everything is locked together so that there's no chance of any kind of subject movement. Now, of course, I shoot in RAW when I'm doing this process because it allows me the highest quality, the largest dynamic range, and I can adjust for the white balance if I feel that it's off in post-production. So now, you take your slide, and as I said, there's some spring clips here at the front. You just simply slide in there. By the way, the aperture on the front of this adapter is only horizontal. So if you have a vertical picture, you just have to put it in there in a horizontal format or arrangement, and then take your picture, and then that will, you can rotate that in post-production. Turn on the camera, and go to live view. That way you can see very carefully what you're getting. And let me just look at this momentarily. You have to get the slide adjusted in the aperture so that it's aligned properly. Otherwise, if the slide is at an angle, then you'll have to crop that in post-production, and it might not make the best copy. Then, so you can see, I believe here, the image, and up and down this side you can see I've got a button that allows for magnification. So I push that button once, it gets 5 times, push it again, I can go to 10 times magnification so I can get critical focus. Now I'm going to do that right now. Probably the best way to do it is to do it manual focus. Until everything is in good sharp focus. And then simply take the picture. Before I take the picture though, I will turn on my light source, my light panel. Then I aim the camera at that lighted background. Take the picture. There, in that case it was a 3.2 second exposure, but again, it doesn't matter because everything is held locked together so that there's no danger of movement while the exposure is being made. And then you can copy the next negative by just taking that one out, sticking the next one in. Of course, there's one step I almost overlooked, and that is cleaning the slide carefully before you put it into the adapter, into this copier, because if you have dust and fingerprints and whatnot on the slide, it's going to show up in your picture. So carefully clean the slide before you put it into the holder. Now, as I mentioned, you can also do this with negatives. It's a little less than ideal right now for me because I don't have that film strip holder, but And then you slide the negative strip into the holder, and again, make your exposure. Then in post-production, you can upload these images into your image editing software, Lightroom, Photoshop, or whatever. And then the slides, of course, you can tweak the white balance, do some cropping, whatever else needs to be done, sharpening and so on. If you're doing negatives, you have to go through an inversion process where you invert the negative from being a negative image into a positive image. And I'll do that in a subsequent video. It's a little more lengthy to get into right now, but once you invert the negative, you have a positive image you can process in your image editing software and print out copies or send them off to people electronically. And that's the end of this. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll be glad to answer them. And thank you very much for watching this. If you liked it, be sure and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And I'll be talking to you the next time.